Hey everyone, my name's Joe, and in this video we're going to talk about why a lot of people find engineering to be a very difficult degree. Let's get into it. So some people who aren't necessarily the smartest or most disciplined throughout childhood, throughout grade school and college, make it through engineering and into the career field. I did see a few examples of this with people who I grew up with and happened to also have some engineering classes with. So this means you don't necessarily need to be the smartest person in the room or the smartest person you know to get through it. Be prepared to put in the necessary amount of time studying, probably more time and more effort than most of your peers, especially if you're the kind of person who might need a little bit more effort in order to grasp some of the skills, because some people are just naturally understand things more quickly than others. It's not a personal insult or anything to do with anyone's character or lacking in anything, but it's just that some people need to put in more effort to understand certain concepts than other people do. And I do think in a lot of cases, you may think of engineering as being difficult because of all the equations that you have to use. So just like any other math class, you learn tons of equations and tons of operations for going through numbers and variables and stuff. Engineering uses a lot of equations. That's kind of mostly what the undergrad in engineering is, other than some lab classes and stuff, which in themselves have their own difficulties because you have to go through a lot of kind of convoluted instructions and stuff you've never seen before. But using a ton of equations and figuring out, because equations, like once you get used to solving them, they're actually pretty easy, but the bigger challenge is knowing when and how to use them. You got this textbook full of so many different equations and all these tables and everything to navigate through and know when to use each one, how to plug one into the other and stuff. So it's convoluted, and that's where it can get into some areas of how do I actually navigate all this in the right way for this specific problem. And similar thing with like physics or other science classes, because it can be difficult to grasp the phenomena that are going on right now, which a lot of it's pretty abstract, especially with like chemical stuff, which I always had a hard time with. Thankfully, I didn't need to do that stuff very much in mechanical engineering, but when it's a lot of sort of linking the physical phenomena to equations and tables and stuff and how to think of that stuff properly, it takes exposing yourself to it quite a bit in order to really grasp it. And a lot of software that engineers use have tons of functions and make it difficult to know what to do at first, especially like SolidWorks or other CAD or FEA. Like there's just so many different tools in there, and it's probably the kind of thing where you're using the same ones almost every day, but there's tons and tons in there that suddenly one of your coworkers or one of your classmates is like, oh, there is this one sort of obscure tool that makes this one thing happen pretty quickly, but just takes time and takes effort to figure it all out. And one important thing to consider is what's your why. You may have heard from coaches in personal finance, health, career coaching, and others why it's important to not only have a goal in mind, but a reason for achieving it. So this is your why. Do you want to make good money? Do you want to have a versatile career? Show employers you're a fast learner? What's your reason for wanting to get through this tough engineering curriculum, and why you want to actually spend all the long hours in order to achieve that goal? What's it going to get you in the long run? Because that's going to be an important ingredient for motivation. When the times get tough, when it seems like a concept in thermodynamics or in structural analysis is pretty difficult, and it seems like it's going to take a lot of hard work to understand it and to pass your next exam, your why is going to be the ingredient that gets you through it and helps you to pass your classes. So putting the time in, and in my case for sure, there were some challenging concepts to grasp. Sometimes a concept or a set of equations at first, I'm just like, what even is this? This makes no sense. and you have to look at a lot of sources and tables to solve the problem. And so you wonder, like, where did all this stuff come from? But the more you look at it, in a lot of cases, the more familiar you are with it, and you eventually have sort of a clicking moment where you actually start to understand it and gradually understand it more and more the more you expose yourself to it. So in a lot of cases, just take some discipline, take some time. Even if it seems impossible to grasp at first, you may be amazed at just how exposing yourself to it may change that. I've also heard people say a similar thing with, for instance, going to another country to learn a language. I've heard you end up amazed at how much just being around people speaking the language helps you to grasp it. And so this is the same way. You're not really going to learn the material by memorizing a ton. You're going to learn it by exposing yourself to it, being around people speaking the language of engineering, etc., and just practice the problems as needed. So don't aim to merely pass. C's do get degrees, but most employers will not consider a GPA below 3.0. You'll have a lot of time and effort to get a 3.0, but you'll also need involvement in internships, research, and clubs, because internships, research, clubs are just any way to show that you have the practical skills necessary to perform an engineering job. Those are going to be necessary to show employers. The degree is not enough to differentiate yourself, unfortunately, nowadays, with more and more people having entered the engineering field. And if you're aiming to work in a specific industry, you'll want to go above and beyond to learn what's needed for that specific industry. So any of your courses that have fluid mechanics, if you're looking to work on HVAC system fluids or rocket propulsion system fluids, you want to really make sure you understand that stuff, ask the professor more questions, dive deeper into what the textbooks are saying about it. So learn what's needed for that specific industry. Even better, just whatever clubs that you may get involved in or whatever organizations that have opportunities to practice those skills or learn more about the practical side of them, definitely get involved in that. If aiming for graduate school and research, then research projects are the big thing you're going to want to get involved in, whether you can get involved in a paid research plan, or a professor has an opening for an undergrad, or a grad student has an opening for an assistant undergrad that can help them to conduct some of their experiments or anything. That's definitely a good thing to get into, especially if you want to go further into grad school. So develop good relationships with other students and with professors as well for those same reasons, because you never know what the networking is going to get you later on. And just other people understanding the concepts and being able to build on everything together, that helps you to be able to be around other people speaking the language, as well as being able to grasp things and get a second opinion of how things are done. So be prepared to work hard, but also budget in your leisure time as necessary to prevent burnout, because we've all seen that. The person who works 24/7, doesn't ever give themselves a break, it's just not sustainable. You're going to eventually crave that leisurely time. You're going to get burnt out. So be sure to have that necessary leisure time. Of course, it's not going to be all day. It might even be only like 15 or 30 minutes a day, or just a few hours a week or something, but it is necessary. Don't burn yourself out, because that's going to not work well in the long run. Get an understanding of the concepts for your specific degree ahead of time to know what you're getting yourself into, because that could save you some time from having to change majors and stuff that could delay you further. And make an educated decision on which degree to choose, because again, switching later on, it can be challenging. It can delay you another semester, another year, or more than that. And it's going to delay you being able to get into your career and make the big bucks.